Welcome everyone back to another episode of Q&A with Sharon's son George. I was my mother's caregiver after she was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. Unfortunately, she passed on 1/1/2020, so we started Together for Sharon.com in her memory and to advocate today for a cure for all those still battling PD and their families because no one is ever alone in this fight for a cure. Today's guest is someone who means a lot to me, is very special in my life, is a big supporter, but also we send the same love and support right back to you, John. And it's really not just an honor to have you, but exciting because we've been friends for some time and
Yeah,
always trying to get you on just because I think you send some incredible inspirational messages and also important ones that we need the world to be aware of. So again, it's just an honor to finally get an opportunity to not just talk online or text, but to actually see each other and really advocate together.
I'm excited to be here.
Thanks. And now let's just get started. Maybe you could tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Well, July 24th of this year will be the 10th anniversary of my diagnosis. Like many people, I was misdiagnosed for many years. The early warning symptoms were there since my early 30s. It got problematic in my 40s, and I was diagnosed at age 47. I had Jory Fleischer, who's phenomenal movement disorder specialist, as my original doctor at NYU. She got me involved with the Parkinson's Foundation within months of becoming diagnosed. And then things just started to roll. I got on Parkinson's TV and I met Boz, and I just got more and more involved. And I found that as my disease progressed, it made me feel better. It made me feel like I was doing something. Uh, it made me feel less helpless.
Well, I want you to know, and hopefully I'll just tell you that I appreciate all you do. A lot of individuals, and there's nothing wrong with it, lead a private, quiet life, but I think that we need everyone to stand up and speak out on the behalf of so many who are still kind of battling, but quietly and silently. And I think the only way we're going to really change the world and end this disease is really number one, being together like we are today. And please share this, everyone. We don't want anything in return but a cure. But this conversation cannot end after, I always say, the lights, camera, and paparazzi leave after the show. It has to continue until there's a cure at everyone's doorsteps around the world. So again, I'm so grateful for all you do. Some days I have a tough day in my life and kind of no matter what I'm doing, I just kind of click onto your Instagram or your social media and I smile, even if the topic's sometimes tough, because it really is important for someone, especially like you, to be out there fighting for so many. So thank you again for all you do.
Even in your bad times, in your off periods when you have Parkinson's disease, it's so important not to hide. For a long time, people with Parkinson's disease were ashamed. We haven't done anything wrong. And if people don't see what it's like to live with Parkinson's, they're not going to give money. They're not going to put pressure on their elected officials to increase funding. We have to be visible.
I agree. And my mother, I look back, we don't have regrets, but she definitely felt alone. And that was one thing I wish I had this show and such amazing people like you. I do consider family, not just a friend, because I do picture us just using FaceTime, which we didn't have then either, and me introducing you to. And I think not only would she have smiled, but I think it would have changed her life. So, we continue on in her memory, but I do hope no one ever feels alone because you're not. You just have to pick up an email, phone, and just reach out. You have so many people out there to support you. Wanted to start off, and in a minute, we're going to share some beautiful work that you've done. But maybe you could tell us a little bit about, some of the important people in your life. I have a question for that later too, but also, how do individuals listening like you keep hope alive?
Well, the important people in my life, Carlin from the Parkinson's Foundation, who's now at the FDA, Jory Fleischer, who was my original movement disorder specialist. She recently nominated me to be on a board. My current Dr. Ritesh Ramdhani, who is also the person that I work with on the clinical study. Those are the important people within the Parkinson's world. Of course, yourself, I worked with Boz, but those three people Jory, Carlin, and Ritesh have really kept me connected to the Parkinson's disease world. If it wasn't for Jory, I wouldn't be connected at all. In my personal life, my son and my wife are they're my reason to continue. They're my reason to that I'm still working after 10 years. I don't think if I was living on my own, I probably would be trying to live off of SSI. I would have given up. So it's good that you have to provide. I'm sure you know you have to provide for your family because it gives you an incentive to stay healthy and get up and keep working every day.
No, I appreciate it. And we also send our love and support to them. There is a question we'll get to later, but I think that a lot of time I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing today, and I know you wouldn't unless you had that support of your family. I wanted to also just thank you for the interview you did. This cool guy here you might recognize, but uh, thank you. And if everyone has time, again, totally free, go to togetherforsharon.com, click interviews, and you can find a lot more detail with John, his family here, a beautiful family, also a lot more in depth about how to reach him and a lot of the work he's done, which is just really, in my opinion, just starting because he's might have done it for a while, but it just seems that we still have so much more to do. But working together just changes the world quicker. I also wanted to now touch on the Parkinson's Foundation. We are big supporters here in the local community, Palm Beach, Florida, but maybe you could talk a little bit about how you discovered them and, some of the work you might be working on now and in the future with the Parkinson's Foundation.
About a month after I was diagnosed, the phone rang and it was Jory Fleischer and Dr. Fleischer. And she said, I think you would feel better if you're involved. And they have a training coming up for patient advocates in research with the Parkinson's Foundation. I'd like to nominate you. So I said, yes, yes, yes. She nominated me. I filled out an application. And then within weeks, this is probably 2 or 3 months after my diagnosis, I was headed to New Jersey to an overnight training uh, at a hotel conference center. That's where I first met Carlin. And I became a patient advocate in research. And as a patient advocate in research, I've sat in on panels to help pharmaceutical companies design clinical studies. Sometimes they call those panels, How Much Will You Endure? Um, I have given feedback on how to market new products and medication because some of the commercials, quite frankly, geared towards people with Parkinson's have been a little insulting. So I've done that. I've spoken at various events about what it's like to live with Parkinson's disease for X number of years. Newly diagnosed people are always interested in that. And the biggest project was working with UCB, a pharmaceutical company in England. They're redoing the Parkinson's disease scales for people who were newly diagnosed because a lot of what's in those scales, the current ones, really pertain to people who are very far along and contain things that are way outdated, like is it difficult to pick up change off a table? I'm not quite certain how many of us still pick up change off a table. But they're redone. They're waiting for approval by the FDA. It was a wonderful project that went on for beyond 5 years.
I appreciate you sharing that because a lot of time we don't have, there's no way we could be everywhere. But when we learn some incredible and exciting research, and that's one thing I admire too about you is you're really involved with writing and research. Someday we'll have to write together, but it's not easy to write in a journal or even publish. So maybe you could talk about your experience with publishing and writing. And also, this is actually one of the articles where I read myself and did a lot of research and I was pretty impressed, but it's
I
not
don't have
again.
my glasses on. Which one is that?
This is with the doctor, with Sonia, and
Yeah,
this is what people with Parkinson's disease want, and it's not again easy. I'm writing many books and citing, but I probably have to cite you both, but and she's amazing as well. But it's
she's phenomenal.
what brought you into writing and publishing? Because again, this is not something that
I
everyone.
think the first article was something called New Kids on the Block about a treatment of people with Parkinson's disease where all the doctors are connected by a Parkinson's disease nurse. That was an article that Boss Blom was the lead researcher for. And there were 13 people, several different types of medical doctors, a dentist, and myself as the patient. And we each wrote a page about, I'm trying to think of the word, where all your doctors work together to provide you care. And I really enjoyed doing that. And some years later, Boz sends me an invite to write an article called What People with Parkinson's Disease Want. And there's a list of recommended co-authors, and Sonia was on there. And obviously, she was going to be my first choice, but I'm like, I can't just call Sonia Mathur and ask her if she'd write an article with me. It sounds cocky. So I sent the list to Jory Fleischer, and she's like, John, there's only one choice. You've got to call Sonia. And I did, and she was very, very nice. And we published the article together. And even though I have a doctorate and have written a dissertation, I've never published. And so it was a little bit overwhelming publishing in a medical journal, but I think it all worked out. And last month, I got a text from Jory Fleischer with a picture of the diagram from this article. She was at a conference and somebody was using our article as part of their presentation. It is now 4 years old, and I think it's time for someone younger than myself, someone newly diagnosed, to update the article. So I throw that challenge out there. We need a new article on what people with Parkinson's disease want.
Thank you. And hopefully, as we say in research, there's always something, a gap in the literature. That means we need to find more information and research on it, or taking something like what you just said and expanding on it and updating it. So thanks again for your work and your research. It's very important. That's what really shapes and changes the world. The other areas that I love, and that's one is how we met, I think, is Instagram. So please follow John on his Instagram. It's ADIMLWPD, but I'll be adding that again to the notes in the recording, and also on LinkedIn for more professional and business type areas. And can find him also under his main name, that I'll be sharing both. But one thing I love about your Instagram is, again, how much you share with your family, and I like things as we speak, but maybe you could touch on, what are you trying to accomplish and really gain through social media, and how can we gain more awareness around the world? It's not just to reach the Parkinson's community. I feel we have to reach people who don't have Parkinson's, and also families who aren't caregivers, if we're ever going to come closer to a cure.
I think with social media, with LinkedIn, I like to share research articles. With Instagram, I like to share like my life with Parkinson's disease so people can see what it's like. One of the things that has been most exciting about Instagram is people see me wearing the pump. I'm in a clinical study. The pump, which is through AbbVie, it's a subdermal pump, was just approved by the FDA. And I get so many calls from people asking me what it's like. And now that people are getting it delivered to them in the United States, I've had 3 meetings with individuals to give them tips and tell them what I thought, what the good, what the bad is, how to make the adjustments. And I really enjoy it when people with Parkinson's disease contact me. As you know, George, I give them my phone number, I give them my email address, and anytime I can talk directly one-on-one to somebody with Parkinson's, it's a good day for me.
I appreciate it. And again, I'm listening to you, but also loving the Instagram and liking, loving everything as we speak. So please also, again, support John here, and we'll share that again. Important. We might be able to take to really reach more people around the world who aren't diagnosed and might not have lost a loved one due to Parkinson's.
I think you need to show the good, the bad, and the ugly. To name an old film from the 70s, you have to show people what it's like when you're living your life happy, because they should know that it's going to happen. Life isn't going to end just because you got diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. You have to show them what people with Parkinson's disease can do. I went to Norway. I did a zip line. I kept doing trapeze and circus classes for many years. But I think it's really important for you to have the courage, if you can, to let people see what you like in your off periods, to let people see your tremor, to let people see you dragging your foot, because that is what's going to encourage people to work on a cure. And that's what's going to encourage people to donate.
Yeah,
Um, I think it's important to become part of a clinical study because not only might you help yourself, but you'll help others. And to me, that's been like the ultimate in involvement in the Parkinson's disease community.
yeah, one area I'm still struggling with is the last year of my mother's life. I was in shock because I never saw anything like the progression, and we still don't understand why it progressed so quickly. But I actually videotaped and took pictures of her downfall. I never shared them. I always did it just in case medical science needed it. But we were debating still about doing a documentary, which might come out next year, and we only put a little video. But as you say, if you don't share the truth, no one will know. But then the opposite is I didn't want, my mother to be remembered for that because just 1 year doesn't show her whole life in 69 years.
Right.
It's a tough struggle. It's also not, she doesn't have a choice, so I don't want to leave her memory like that. But some of I might have to share with you privately, but some of the stuff I saw is really shocking, but heartbreaking. And I don't even know why I opened the folder to relook at it, but it was very tough to watch.
I read your book. I had a physical
Right.
copy of the book and an audio copy of the book. And towards the end, your mother had gone through so much. I'm like pounding on the steering wheel, like
Don't worry.
screaming out loud. Thank God there was no one else in the car. It was just really heartbreaking. And I can't imagine what it was like for you and for your family. Um, your mother seems like she was just the most amazing person. And she just suffered way too much, in my opinion. It, it was heartbreaking.
I appreciate also the support even before we became such good friends and means a lot. The only reason we do this and we don't accept money and we must have spent a tremendous amount on that book and donated the whole thing to the Michael J. Fox Foundation and the Parkinson's Foundation and the American Park. There's just so many of them out there. But the biggest problem still with awareness is just getting the word out and hope so. I mean, every time we have a show or I meet one person, if we change their life for the better, then we've done the best we can. But I do wish someday it would reach the world, just again, not for money. It would offer free, but just so that, she's remembered for her life, not for what happened due to Parkinson. But again, grateful for all the support. And even I remember my daughter, she's 12 now, she might have been, it was almost a year, probably still almost turning 12. And she saw your video pop up as I was looking at my phone, and she was like in awe because it's just amazing to see her grandmother out there and still being talked about, even if it's for good or tougher situations. So thanks again.
Yeah, I mean, I think through the book and through your work, your mother lives on and her story lives on. I think telling your story is one of the most important things that someone with Parkinson's disease can do, along with if you could get into a clinical study that's very rewarding. But telling your story, people don't relate to a disease. No matter how much you tell about people struggling and people suffering, but they relate to you and your story. And to see what you're going through, the highs and lows, I think that that's what makes people reach for their wallet and give money to the Parkinson's Disease Foundation and to volunteer.
Yeah, I agree. And I always say, which kind of tough, but the only journey that breaks my heart today is the one that I'm not aware of because there are so many people still out there. I mean, just a month ago, we had the gentleman who sailed around or rode around the world and raised, millions and millions for the Michael J. Fox Foundation. And there are people out there still that I'm not aware of. So, as I always ask everyone listening, feel free to send any individuals you'd like to see on the show or just some inspiring stories because it's really going to inspire others. But if we're not aware of it, then that's the really big problem. So thank you
I'm
again.
in awe of people who can raise money. I am
I
terrible
can't do it
at
either.
asking
We're
people
gonna have
for
a
money.
show together, and we're like, cause I do reach the world, not for good reasons. Like I'm not kind of saying that's great, but we have been able to interview people from Iceland, Poland, like all different places. You would Nova Scotia, which I never even dreamed of Parkinson's being affected there. But as we both know, and everyone listening, doesn't discriminate. Parkinson's affects all genders, races, cultures, diversity, and everyone. It's not the elderly man disease anymore
Right.
of old, but we have to somehow all work together, I think, because we have to be a family in this fight. Someone pointed out just a few days ago on one of the shows that they're actually not fighting for themselves, they're fighting for their kids. And I didn't even think of that because I'm trying to fight for all you. And then you forget that the next generation too, I might even be get affected because we're not sure about genetics. So, I think today together it's just going to change the world for the better.
I'm blanking on the name of the research study where you get the genetic testing.
Mhm.
I think that is, you could probably add that to the show notes. Um, Parkinson's generation. If you have Parkinson's disease, you get free genetic testing, which is very expensive, and free genetic counseling. And I will tell you, from the day I got diagnosed with Parkinson's disease until that date, the day that they told me I didn't have a genetic form of Parkinson's disease was the happiest day of my life post-Parkinson's disease um, diagnosis, knowing that I wasn't going to pass it on to my son. Just, it was a great relief.
I'm happy for that, but still, we have so much more work to do, it seems. Once we accomplish something, I feel like we still have a lot more to do until everyone out there, like yourself, is not struggling. And, no matter what I go through, I'm not going to stop till we have that cure at everyone's doorstep. So I wanted to now move to last part of the show, but again, I don't say goodbye because this has to continue. It's not the end. I always say to be continued, but can you list three words that describe who you are?
Determined, hopeful, trying to think of it. Determined, hopeful, and stubborn.
Thank you. I love the honesty, and I agree with some of it, but also no one asked me, but my downfall is definitely
What
that.
are they? What are your words?
Well, number one is motivated, determined, and the last one is probably stubborn too, because there's two
What?
also stubborn because I think that the two downfalls I have and I can't stop is number one when my mother was very sick. I put her health first, and I'm glad I did it just because she only felt comfortable when I was around. But that meant being there, 24/7. And they always say for caregivers, the rule is to take care of yourself first. So I didn't do that. And even today, as an advocate, the same, breaking it again, because every time I want to take a break, I think of you and all those other individuals out there battling. And I just don't have the time to take a break until you don't have to deal with this anymore.
I think what you're saying now is very important. Stress progresses Parkinson's disease. And people with Parkinson's disease need to avoid stress. And one way you can do that is not saving the world. There's a lot of things that are wrong. And sometimes people would say, well, don't you feel for this person? Don't you care? And I think people with Parkinson's disease have to practice this phrase. I really do care, but it's not my responsibility to fix that. And I don't appreciate you guilting me into thinking it is.
Yeah.
I think you have to say no, especially as a caregiver, but as a person with Parkinson's disease, know your limitations. Don't increase the stress in your life. You owe that to yourself so that the disease progresses slowly, but you owe that to your family and your friends and the people who are counting on you to do that. So take care of yourself and don't say yes to everything.
And that's also what I enjoy about your social media is the honesty. I think that's one successful thing that we have here is that I'm really open. There's nothing to hide and there's no reason to, but honesty is such an important part of all advocacy, I think. And you do that really well as a model, role model. Can you share? This one's a tough one, I think, but is there one moment or most memorable moment that stands out through most of your work with awareness so far that you can share? And I know it's hard because it's probably more than one, but is there one?
Yeah, I was at the at an event in Long Island talking about my experience in being a part of a clinical study. And several people, it was not yet approved by the FDA, and they wanted to see where it attached under my skin, and they wanted to look at the pump, and they wanted to ask me what a difference it made in my life. And there were just three or four people who stayed after the event, and it was so rewarding to see like if this works and if this helps people, it will be remarkable. And it was just like such a good experience seeing people who were excited about a treatment plan and knowing that I had some very, very small part in it.
I appreciate that. And also, I love, you always remind me about New York because I'm from Brooklyn and I did about I always say I did 18 years of hard time there. That's probably why I went into policing and law, but because I wanted to help fight victims or help fight for victims against crime growing up in Brooklyn. But I hope maybe we'll see you at the next Unity Walk. I don't know if you,
Yes, definitely. That was my back surgery. I was recovering after the last union.
that's another show we need for both of our backs.
Oh,
But we don't want to bring that up right now. Well,
no.
and what are some ways you combat the disease if you are? Because I know you do a lot of things.
Since I worked on the article, What People with Parkinson's Disease Want with Sonia Mathur, even more information has come out about diet and exercise. Stop eating red meat, stop drinking soda, stay on a Mediterranean diet, and exercise at least 40 minutes a day, 3 days a week. It's going to slow the progression, it's going to make you feel better. You owe it to yourself and your family to slow the progression and have as many good years as you can.
No, I appreciate it. And also, you kind of mentioned earlier, we like to take a moment to thank all those in your life who help
Yeah.
you because, you might be the spokesperson and the face of a lot of the advocacy, but as we talked about earlier, we want to give individuals here a moment and thank the support system, the family, and all the individuals in your life that might be in behind the scenes. So I know you mentioned them, but maybe we can again because
Yeah, my wife, Kate Lynch, and my son, Ocean, they've always been there for me. Um, I think you should always tell children the truth because they're eventually going to find out. When Ocean was about 6 or 7, he asked my wife if I had Park Slope disease, which is a neighborhood in Brooklyn. So they're always listening. Find a child-friendly version of Parkinson's disease and tell them. Uh, Big supporter, my brother Paul and my friend Sam. And then I call these people the two only members of the John Andrejack fan club. That's Diane and Andrea. Um, I think if anybody ever said anything bad about me, they would attack them. They've just been two wonderful people to have in my life.
thanks. And I don't think there would be anything bad to say about you. So,
Oh, I'm sure people have lists.
well, not
I'm a
on
giant pain in the neck.
I love it. This one I might know the answer, but if you could, I stopped asking this question, but I have a feeling you'll give a different answer or perspective. But if you could have one wish granted, what would it be?
Today, I'm going to go with a world without Parkinson's disease. It
I
would
love,
be that or world peace. Um, we do this thing, my son and I have been doing it for many years when we are up in upstate New York in Treadwell. It's way up beyond Oneonta. We throw rocks into the stream and make a wish. And ever since he was little, he'd be like, an end to world hunger. For everyone in my family to be healthy. And one day, like 4 years ago, I almost cried. He took a whole handful of rocks at once and said, the end of Parkinson's disease. I was just like, oh.
I agree on that one, and I'll have to join you and throw a rock someday. At least
Yeah, we'd love to have
maybe
you
it'll
come.
be in Central Park, but I don't want to hit anything.
Come
Here's a
upstate, we'll swim in the pond, we'll go
my
for a
my family wants to see snow, and we finally went to New York, and it's freezing but not snowing. It was like,
It
what's going?
snowed today in New York.
Should have done this outside, and I could have seen the snow. I don't miss it personally. My family never saw it, but I was the one shoveling it. That's probably why I had back surgery. So,
Oh,
uh, who is your hero and inspiration?
um, I think my wife and my son, for reasons that I really can't get into right now, but my son is just a remarkable person who exists in a world that's not meant for him, and my wife who encouraged. him to do that. Got him the help he needed for that.
Well, we send our love to the whole family again. This is the second time. We only usually send once, but we get 20 million times and thank them from us too. Give a real hug, I hope, at the Unity Walk maybe next year
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing you
for
in
all.
person.
As we wrap up, I have just a couple more. This one will get you smiling again. If you were asked to write a script to a movie about your life story, what would you call it, and what actor would play your role?
I've always flirted with telling a fictional story, so I wanted to call it Cryptid, about the like the Jersey Devil, the Loch Ness Monster, and sort of use the story of these creatures to talk about battling a disease. And what actor would play?
Don't
Um,
forget Bigfoot. You gotta throw
oh
Bigfoot.
no, I'm trying to think of uh, the guy from Say Anything, John.
Cusack.
John Cusack, because
All
in
right.
Say Anything, I have cyclothymia, so I have a tendency, it's a mild form of bipolar disorder, to go on and on and on and talk way too much. And there's the dinner scene from Say Anything, where he's having dinner with her family and their friends, and he just can't shut up, no matter how hard he's trying. And I think that scene sort of defines much of my young life. So he would be the one to play me.
I didn't notice any of that today in our talk, and I loved every moment of it. Final question: if you could leave the Parkinson's community today with some words of encouragement, what would they be?
Just keep trying, just keep going.
Those,
Whatever you're doing to help, if you can't raise funds, volunteer in another way. If you have Parkinson's disease, just let people hear your story. Just by being a visible person with Parkinson's disease, you're making a difference. You don't, not everybody can raise $1 million. Not everybody can write a book, but you can be on social media and let people see what people with Parkinson's disease go through. Keep doing what you're doing.
I appreciate it, and I'll be doing that right by your side until the cure is at everyone's doorsteps around the world. I do have a little message for you, but before I do that, please again follow John on several social medias, specifically on Instagram at ADIMLWPD, and also in all the show links. You'll be able to
The
follow him.
easy way to remember that it's a day in my life with Parkinson's disease, it's the initials.
Nice. What if you're not good at acronyms? Then you that's how I passed the bar exam. I made an acronym for every single part of the, otherwise I wouldn't have done it. But
That's the way I passed my dissertation certification exam.
awesome. We have so much more to talk about, and hopefully we will get that opportunity very soon. And if we're live, we'll be coming live from you from the Unity Walk, I hope, this
Well,
year.
that would be great.
Yeah. And just want to thank you again for your time. I want to thank everyone listening. I do have a message for you, John, and everyone listening. We love you. We support you. We care a lot about you, and you're never alone. I, along with John, will advocate for you, and together I feel our voices are so much stronger. And I always end with I'm just getting started because even though it's been sadly about 5 years more now since my mother passed, when I decide not to do this some days or I have my own struggles, I literally turn to John, either text, call, or his Instagram, and he really kind of cheers me up even some of the tougher times because I know I have to keep fighting till we have a cure at everyone's doorstep around the world. And until then, John and I will definitely keep advocating together, and there's just so much more to come. So I always say this is not a goodbye and not the end. This is to be continued. So thank you again, John, for your time, and
Thank you.
thank you,
Thanks
everyone.
for everything that you're doing. I'm so glad that because it's once the person with Parkinson's disease in your life passes on, it's so easy to just move on with the rest of your life. But you have spent years dedicated to letting people know your mother's story and helping us with Parkinson's disease. So thank you.
No, I appreciate it in a way, as we mentioned, I think she lives through everyone still battling. So we need to end this disease. We need to come together, donate to your local Parkinson's organization. Doesn't matter which one I think, or, it doesn't matter. Just get out there. And like John said, doesn't take much time to join social media. It's free and just post once in a while, even a month. It's just do something because you're not alone. But thank you again, everyone. Please share this show. more we share it, more people will be aware of Parkinson's, and it's definitely growing. Because I mean, I looked the other day. I don't care about likes, numbers, and all that, but more and more people are seeing it, and that's important. So thanks again, everyone. We send our love, and we'll end this one with to be continued. Thanks, John.